At first, associate myself with the remarks of Mr. Courtney, Mr. Andrews, and Mr. Miller on that, who I think have done a great job of pointing out some of the matters that need to be addressed. This idea that we made a promise that we couldn't keep in 2007 is, as Mr. Courtney says, exactly wrong. We made a promise, and we kept it. And the promise was that we would keep the interest rates low on subsidized Stafford loans so that we wouldn't be using the students and using them to pay down the deficit. We would be giving them decent interest rates so that they would have the incentive to go to college, to graduate, and then to get in and be the next innovators, creators, and people in the workforce who could drive this country's economy forward. That's a promise we made and a promise we kept that's trying to be undone here. And unfortunately, this bill that my friends on the Republican side put forward is going to undo that promise, because they simply buy into this notion that somehow, instead of following the public policy of having more people graduate from school, the idea here is to use those students, their backs and the backs of their parents, to make money they used to pay down a deficit that was created by some very bad decisions in the early 2000s. The decision to give tax cuts in 2001 and 2003, mostly to people that made enormous amounts of money in the interim and who now aren't paying their fair share of taxes. The same people running those investment Wall Street banks, and go up to the Fed window and borrow money at 0.75% off the books. And nobody talks about, gee, how much money are they getting at such a cheap rate, and what is that doing to our deficit? That's all just happening. And that's the industry that nearly drove us all to the brink in our financial system and the international financial system. Yet, but when it comes to students and their parents and the public policy of moving our economy forward for growth and giving people an opportunity, they want to talk about, oh my God, we've got to make money as we did last year, $51 billion, to pay down on that deficit created back in the early 2000s by some incredibly bad decisions, like going into Iraq without finishing the business of Afghanistan, like putting prescription drugs in Medicare and Plan D without getting a better deal from the pharmaceutical manufacturers, and right on down the line. So they want to use students and their parents and their backs to pay down the deficit they created. The better public policy here, I would argue, is to do just what others have mentioned: give these students and their parents a decent rate that covers the cost of the loan, the cost of administrating it, and is neutral in that respect. And then if you want to worry about your budget deficit, go to the many, many different ideas that have been put forward, including those in the Van Hollen bill, to have a balanced way of dealing with what remains on our deficit, at the same time allowing for investments in our future, the best investment of our future being these students and their ability to get through and get the skills and the education they need to drive our economy. It's a common expression around here that, oh my God, we don't want to burden the next generation with a big deficit. The same people that make that statement apparently have no problem with burdening the next generation with a mountain of student loan debt. I think that's sort of contradictory on that basis. Let's get back to the business here. Let's make a promise that we can and we should keep. Let's put these interest rates down at a level and give these students and their families the same deal that Wall Street gets, and let them pay a decent rate and get on with their futures and give our economy a boost in the meantime. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.